Welcome to Probing Conversations with the Accidental Aliens. I'm Scott Lost.
I'm Andy Ducliffe.
I'm Travis Rivas.
And today we're going to be talking about the Umbrella Academy. But first we're going to cover a couple of things that happened in the world of comics today, comic movies. So today, James Gunn got his job back for Guardian of the Galaxy 3. Guardian of the Galaxy. Just one guy. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. How are we feeling about James Gunn?
I am very excited about that. I thought the circumstances surrounding his firing were a load of horseshit. This will be a cursing episode, friends, just so you know. It was a load of horseshit that came from, I think, a bunch of people who weren't even really fans of James Gunn or the movies in the first place. It just seemed like, kind of just like, they just wanted to take somebody down and just to kind of get a point for their side. And I think that Disney kind of reacted very knee-jerk. And at first it didn't seem like they were going to reverse course, and they did. So I'm very, very happy about this because I don't think anybody else wanted to touch those movies.
And then, as you know, I didn't really keep too much up to date with the whole James Gunn situation. Before recording this, I did look up some articles and kind of fan reactions on YouTube. And it seems like everyone's on board. Travis is one of them. I don't know. I think it just sort of brings up the question of what sins are forgivable. So I haven't seen what he specifically tweeted. Evidently, it was pretty controversial. But considering that this was 10 years ago, it just makes me ask, like, if indeed what he said was bad, because again, I haven't seen the actual tweets, can we at least grow as a person and show contrition and be forgiven in a way? Right. So anyway, that's just the extent of my thoughts. I don't know much beyond that.
Yeah, so from what I understand, it was pretty much that he was so aggressively against Trump that it was the Trump supporters that kind of dug up that information, some old tweets. And the tweets themselves, they were... if you have any kind of sense of humor, you know that he's joking. He's clearly joking in these tweets. So that was the regimen. The regime going after him was the Trump supporters.
Well, and back in the day, he was associated with the Troma crowd. The guys who did like Toxic Avengers and all those B movies, and they kind of had a reputation of like being offensive and like being provocateurs, and like he was really just kind of in line with that mentality, and really just kind of doing, I don't know, his job at that point in his career. And from what I heard, like recently he had these meetings with Disney where they were really happy with the way he handled the situation, and we heard that they were already going to use his script, and it just seemed like they were coming together closer and closer, and then finally today we got the good news. So I heard he's still doing Suicide Squad 2 as well, and Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yes, so they're going to do Suicide Squad first, just so there's no conflict of interest with his time or anything like that. They're going to finish filming that, according to this article, that Disney's willing to wait for him, which is awesome.
That's amazing. And I heard the other rumor, I think it was either Kurt Busiek or Fabian Nicieza tweeted out that there's a rumor that James Gunn also wants to do a Thunderbolts movie.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Which I heard might be in the plans post Endgame, because we don't know what's going to happen with the Avengers yet.
Right.
We don't know if they're still going to be there around. And if you remember the Thunderbolts, they were formed after Onslaught, when all the Avengers and most of the main Marvel heroes were gone. So they had the spoilers for a 25-year-old comic book. The Thunderbolts are supervillains disguised as superheroes, which I think fits perfectly in line with James Gunn and what he can do. So I would be super happy to see that.
Yeah, timeline-wise, that just makes a lot of sense. Like, whatever happens here... it's possibly a lot of the original cast of Avengers. They want to move on from this. They've been doing it for 10 years now, 10 plus years. Yeah. So it's understandable that a lot of them as actors want to branch out and do something different. That would be an awesome storyline for them to go to. Okay, so the next up is we're going to hit the Ninja Turtles Batman crossover animated episode. Is it a movie or is it a...
It's Direct to DVD movie, the way that DC has been doing. They just did Death and Reign of the Superman, the way they did the Dark Knight Returns, and all those animated features.
Okay. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to watch the film, not the trailer. We're going to watch the trailer, not the film. We don't have that yet. We don't have that kind of access. We're going to watch the trailer, and we'll be right back in a second. Okay, we're back. So it was Batman versus the Ninja Turtles. So what's your first thoughts on that trailer?
Oh, I got heavy nostalgia feels. Like I saw one of the few movies my parents let me watch was the original Ninja Turtles movies, like the latex shit, and Batman the Animated Series. This kind of seemed to have, similar motifs, so I'm very happy to see that.
It looks like it's not necessarily any other incarnation of the Turtles we've seen before. The closest is maybe the early 2000s series. Or I heard that's more based off of the IDW Turtles.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So I think it looks good. I never read the comic. I've read the other Turtles comics.
You read the IDW stuff, right?
Yeah, the IDW stuff. So yeah, looks good. Raph's got some attitude.
Yeah.
And Mikey looks like he's Mikey.
Yeah, that was the one thing I actually liked all of the voice acting. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it's Kevin Conroy. We haven't done our homework. We didn't check to see if it is, but
we're professionals here.
That's right. So all the voice acting sounds really good. All the turtles sound like who they should be. Leo sounds very much like himself. Everybody sounds like who they are. So that is really, really cool looking footage. The fight scenes themselves look pretty good. I wonder why they decided to go with the old school blue and gray outfit. I kind of wish they would have done the more modern costume to make it seem like it's in continuity. So when I see the blue and the gray, I usually think it's like, I think of like Scooby-Doo Adventure, like Scooby-Doo, with Batman and Robin. And so that kind of made it seem less important to me. And like, not that it's supposed to be important, but like if he was wearing his black costume, his black and gray, like it just might seem a little bit more.
I think it's not supposed to seem in continuity, so I think that's one of the signifiers that it's just really kind of its own thing.
Right.
Like, and that's the thing with a lot of those DC movies. They're really, I think except for like the Justice League movies and the Teen Titans one, they're really kind of their own separate thing. They don't really connect in any way, which I don't mind. I like that they can tell fun stories from any, and they're not beholden to any kind of other story before it if they don't want to be.
All right, looks good.
I think he looks fetching in the blue and gray, just for the record. Compliments him well.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I know it definitely signifies that it's not in continuity, but why is that such a bad thing? Why would it be such a bad thing to have it in continuity? At least have him in the current outfit. I don't know. It's whatever. It's fine. It's kind of a nitpicky thing, but I would like that. Not that the Ninja Turtles are serious.
Yeah.
But it would give more of an indication that this was a serious film, as much as a story about Batman and Ninja Turtles can be serious.
4 giant turtles.
Right. I'm a giant child.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. So those are the bits of news hitting the world today. So we're going to hop into the Umbrella Academy. Let's try that again.
Oh,
all right.
Staying in.
Bloopers.
So butt stuff. For it, against it. Still on the fence about it.
Klaus is for it.
Klaus is for it.
Is he? You don't know that.
No.
Klaus could be a
He
top.
could be the top.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nah, I didn't seem like it.
I feel like he'd be at
really
least
did not
open
seem
to it, so. Yeah. So the Umbrella Academy, Scott.
Okay, so we're going to start our conversation. We don't even need to look at you. Okay, so the Umbrella Academy, it's been out for probably about 3 weeks now. So enough time for people to digest and get a feel of, how they actually feel about the show overall with a little bit of time passed. So what did you guys think? What did you think of the series as a whole? What did you think? Let's start there. Series as a whole.
Well, have you have you read the comics? Did you have any prior experience to the series before going into it?
I didn't.
Didn't either.
I was aware of it. One of my friends was super into it. He would always show me the books, and at the time, I wasn't really into the art. But looking back, like I went and looked some stuff up, and I actually liked the way it looked.
And it's Gabriel Ba.
Yes, yeah. So going back and looking at it, I'm like, oh man, like at the time, I just wasn't ready for that style. But yeah, it looks cool. I never had the chance to read it.
Yeah, I remember, I think it's like, is it 10 years ago that it came out? It had a lot of buzz because it was Gerard Way and My Chemical Romance. And
I think it was about 2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, so a little bit more than 10 years ago. And I tried reading it probably about a year ago, and I kind of like you, it really didn't grab me. A book really needs to grab my attention if I'm going to keep reading it. And I read the first two. But then when I started watching the series, I got about 4 in, and I went back and I read the first trade in one sitting, and it's good. I knew it made me realize what was kind of coming on in the TV show, but I think this is one of the few times where I think the show is better than the source material.
I haven't read the comics, so I can't comment on that, but I really, really enjoyed the show. I thought it was well written. It wasn't very, like, it didn't play on these character tropes as much, so it kind of kept me guessing as to what was going to happen next. You know, like, as you know, like, I like to put on something on Netflix while I'm, like, working on drawings or comics or whatever, and, like, this is, like, you know, the first show in a while where I've just, like, I can't look away. Like, this is really, really good. Plus, if you looked away for, like, 10 seconds, something major would happen. You'd have to, like, rewind.
Right. Yeah.
No, but yeah, well written. I like the characters' development, and I like the story structure.
I loved it. From the very first episode, it hooked me. I was like, oh man, I need to watch more of this. And much like Andy, I like to put something on in the background while I'm drawing. But this was, like she said, it's another show that was like, okay, well, you can't do anything else. Like, this is what you're doing.
Right.
But I actually managed to watch it 3 different times.
Wow.
Yeah, I watched it. I burned through it. I was hungover. And so I had nothing better to do than lay down on the couch and just burn through the show. But it wasn't like... It wasn't an effort. It was like, yes, please, next one. And then I watched half of the season with you, because you hadn't watched it, and I watched it completely with Mars. So and she loved it. So yeah, just an amazing show, great character development. Looking back at the source material, the one thing that I like that they did different, just visually, is they mixed it up ethnically.
Yeah,
like everybody.
for sure.
And it just makes sense, like the premise of the book or the show, being that what was it, like 47?
43 women around the
43.
world.
So 43 women around the world. So it makes sense that you would get different ethnicities in there as opposed to the comic where everyone was white. So I did like that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really liked specifically was the relationship, and it showed really a dysfunctional family. There's several superhero TV shows on right now, whether it's, the Arrowverse or the Defenders stuff or some of Marvel's Hulu shows, and all of those dysfunctional relationships felt really real to me. It didn't feel like there was just drama kind of being forced in to kind of keep the storyline going. These felt like actual siblings who had these broken relationships. And they all kind of interacted with each other in a different way. You had...
Luther and Allison definitely acted differently than other siblings.
I was going to say Luther and is it Diego? Diego's too. They definitely felt like brothers who were always beating the shit out of each other.
Sibling rivalry, for sure. Plus, I feel like Allison and Luther would make Woody Allen proud. So.
There's no blood. There's no blood there.
Right. Something interesting about that situation is when they talk about them as children, or like even the flashback when they're on the roof in their cardboard rocket ship.
Yeah.
Hargreaves comes up and he goes, playing time is restricted to Saturday between 12 and 12:30. So their entire childhood, they were treated as like kind of like soldiers, basically, or they're just being trained to be these superheroes. So they didn't really have a chance to be children. So that makes you think, well, it kind of makes sense, like their particular relationship. It's like, well, they were more like students that all just went to the same school, those two specifically, as opposed to being brother and sister, because, brother and sister shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Today on The Accidental Aliens, the merits of incest versus adoption. Does it count? So.
Don't look at my family tree.
No, for me, it definitely had more of a brother-sister vibe, but also because of the adoption, I think they were able to kind of scooch around it, and just also the fact that all of these characters, every single one of them is fucked up in some kind of way or other.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, you brought up the idea of them being soldiers. It's almost like they have this PTSD after being in their father's war when they were children, and having to deal with it and kind of carry on. And some of them were still in their father's service, much like Luther was. And then he found out that it's all for nothing, that he just kept him there for busy work.
Yeah.
Again.
Okay, so in the first trade, it gets to the Vanya stuff?
Yeah, so in the trade, Vanya is very much manipulated into being this device of the apocalypse, like you saw, except it was really kind of weird. There was an organization, the name was in German, but I think it translates to the goddamn orchestra. And it's like this orchestra of people, like this cult orchestra that is dedicated to the apocalypse, and they want Vanya to kill them all, and they're manipulating her much the way that Leonard did in the show, and that was actually one of my few criticisms of the shows, that I missed that organized manipulation of Vanya, and instead of just one guy finding a diary in a trash can, who just so happens to find Hargreaves' diary and use that against her. So that felt kind of forced to me, and whereas with the comic it felt not more natural, but it was more organized, and they kind of replaced that with the Time Agency. I don't know if they ever gave them a name, what the Time Assassins were. 'Cause those, I didn't see those in the comic, at least in the first trade.
Okay. Hazel and Cha-Cha
and the Handler and their whole organization.
Yeah, that was super cool. That whole organization was very cool. Hazel and Cha-Cha were nice, fun, villains.
Yeah. Mary J. Blige, man.
Yeah, man. And it's just
Literally.
Yeah. I like their masks, and in one of the scenes it was clearly like hard. Like I think Diego even tried to headbutt it and like headbutt one of them, and he hurt his own head because it was hard. But in other scenes it was soft. So that was a little interesting.
Those masks showed up in one of the trades somewhere in the comics, so that's like directly inspired from that.
Just going off of that, my favorite scene was when they got super duper high and then started dancing. But I mean, like that kind of like goes us to like, just appreciating the story structure. Like it's got this really like wacky, kind of zany sort of style, which I like.
Right.
And it's like kind of like a series of unfortunate events meets X-Men, which I know like we've said a million times, but he and I have probably me to him mainly. I like to talk at people, not listen. That's how I go.
Me too now.
Yeah. Anyway, no, but I liked just kind of like the wacky editing, the crazy colors and music that went to it.
And we get that right off the bat in the very first episode. I think it was like 15 minutes in, they're all dancing in different rooms in the mansion. That was great. That was a great scene. I love the cutaway wall aspect where you see them all in separate rooms doing their own weird dances and stuff.
Well, I rewatched that scene recently, and I think what was really cool about it is that I think if you look at their dance styles, it kind of, everybody's dance style kind of shows something about their personality. So Vanya, when she's dancing, but she's still very stiff. She's still very kind of like in a very tight, closed off space. whereas Luther's kind of unaware of his body, and like Diego's dancing is very precise.
Yeah.
You know, it's very like it's throwing the knives. It's
a
all
flow to
about precision, and where Klaus is just kind of all over the place. You know, so that's a really cool showing moment where you like even you see who these characters are and the way that they move and the way that they kind of unleash, whereas Vanya can't unleash, even though she's dancing and she's having some fun. There's still a stiffness to her.
Reservation there. Yeah, she's holding back.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm kind of sad because everyone's talking about the dancing in episode 1. I'm kind of sad because everyone's talking about the dance scene in episode 1. I really like the dance scene in episode, I think it was 6, the one where they took the day away between Luther and Allison. Oh, yeah. That was a really well choreographed scene, and I thought that was beautifully shot. And I wish more people were talking about that. That was getting more credit.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought it was really well shot. I actually, because like I said, I watched the whole series 3 times. So after you had mentioned that to me, on one of another go rounds, I made sure to pay attention to that, and it was shot beautifully. It was more so just them two, and I felt like their storyline was the least compelling of all the storylines. Like they're the storylines I cared about the least, so I didn't really care that much. Whereas I actually preferred Luther in the first episode because everyone was unknown, like who they were going to be, and like the way he was dancing, it was like he cut loose, but he has the one thing I did know from the comic was like he had an ape body. And so I was like, oh, he's kind of like ape moving and stuff. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, that's kind of funny. And he's kind of a goofball. Like, you can tell that he's supposed to be the number one. He's supposed to be the leader. But really deep down inside, he's just a big, giant goofball. And then where Diego is just like, I'm the brooding, quiet type or whatever. But like you said, it leans to the precision of everything. And it's just, there's a flow to him. And he made sure to close the door. He didn't want anyone to see that. So I really liked that. There was just a lot of telling things about that scene, whereas the Luther Allison one was just, for me, I was like, yeah, it's them two, and they're finally getting their moment, and that's nice, but I don't really care about them that much.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I brought it up earlier, is that the group dance scene is more revealing about their characters, whereas Luther and Allison's more of a culmination of what they'd been waiting for.
Right.
And which makes it all the more kind of heartbreaking when that moment is taken away.
Yeah, the whole day.
Yeah.
Because if that day wasn't taken away, so if what took it away was 5 coming back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when 5 comes back, it undoes all of the things that would have stopped the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Right, or at least changed it.
Right.
Andy, you're an outsider.
I am an outsider.
How did you feel about that aspect of the show?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that, Travis. Vanya's character spoke to me on like a spiritual level, like touching back on the whole, she's still very reserved even when she knows she's alone. It really spoke to me about just how I grew up. And granted, I have vastly different circumstances than Vanya did. I wish I could bring about the apocalypse sometimes, but no, I feel like a lot of kids, still have that sentiment of feeling left out, and so it's understandable to kind of have that, just that sheer resentment towards the world around you for, essentially like shutting you out, and you not fully understanding why. They didn't even fully understand why at the moment either. Right. But yeah, it just goes to show just honesty is better, I want to say.
Well, and it kind of, like that aspect of it too, like if you look at it from the sibling side of it, it also talks to how much we're so self-involved. Like they're so worried about what's going on with themselves that they're not really worrying about what's going on with her.
Right.
So they're just caught up in their own stuff. Like even the scene where when she goes all Dark Phoenix and she's starting to destroy the mansion, and then she's going in each room and she's remembering different memories, and it's like everyone's basically telling her to go away. Right. Like I think Diego even tells her like, you don't even have powers, and then Luther and Allison are about to make out, and then they freak out and tell her to get out. So it's just like one after the other.
Well, that's kind of the thing. One of the cool things about Vanya is that I noticed that even among this group of outsiders, right? These group of was it 7 kids who all had each other growing up. She's the only outsider amongst a group of outsiders. So at least even they kind of had each other, and you kind of noticed it in one way or another, where it was either Luther and Allison, or I feel like Diego and the mom had a good relationship. There was Ben and Klaus; they had the relationship. She was really the only one who didn't have anybody. She
Didn't
was
have a pair. She wasn't in a pair.
Yeah, she was the only outsider amongst outsiders. So when Leonard does show up, it does make it understandable that she's finally being seen by somebody.
And I also wanted to touch briefly on Leonard too, just towards the end when he starts brazenly manipulating her, and the audience sees just the lengths that he's going to do this. I mean, that also touched upon some previous bad relationships in my life about you're worthless without me, you need me, et cetera, et cetera. So,
right. And to bring that back to what I was talking about with the goddamn orchestra, where in the comics, it's really this organization manipulating her. They changed that because they wanted to tell the story of what's it like to be in a manipulative relationship.
Also that for streamlining purposes, because you already have the handler and you have Hazel and Cha-Cha, so that's one organization. Then you're gonna have this other organization. Too many organizations. You got to streamline that a bit, and then to do it in a relationship, and it just makes so much more sense that it's she has always been alone essentially. So for her to finally get someone, and then it turns out that's the person that's actually really manipulating her, and her sister has had her best interest in mind the whole time. It makes it a very interesting dynamic.
Right, and that's one of the things I wanted to bring up when you said, they're also self-involved. Allison's trying. Yes. Allison is really, really trying to be there, but she doesn't quite get it, Mm-hmm.
I think it's also the fact that Allison's so successful that it's like, oh, you want to tell me how to live? And it's just she's been ignored her whole life. That's what she feels. And Allison now sees what she's gone through. As you get older, you see things that you didn't necessarily see before.
And not legitimately successful. She cheated. Yeah. Allison, she used her powers to get all these things that she didn't necessarily deserve. She didn't have to work for them. Right. Things came. It's kind of that, again, that allegory of seeing your sibling where things come very easy for them, but you're struggling. You're alone. And one of the things I wrote down here is that, especially Vanya, that whole relationship felt like an allegory for mental health. She's taking the meds at the beginning, and in the later part of the season, it's this idea of one of your family members is struggling with mental health. How do you deal with that? And they end up institutionalizing her essentially and locking her up. In one of the most powerful scenes in the show, and I was actually I got really, really teared up when Vanya's in the cell and she's banging on the wall trying to get out. That's
as a the grown up version, not the child version. The grown up version was, and it's messed up because a lot of the shit goes wrong because Luther just constantly is picking the wrong move. There's, you can go to the right or you can go to the left. Whatever the right move is, that's what Luther does, or the wrong move is, that's what Luther does.
But the thing I like about that, it's, yes, in those last couple episodes, I think Luther is more of the driving force for Vanya's insanity or bringing about the apocalypse, whatever you want to call it. But those moves felt very real to me. Yeah. He was this negative driving force, but it does feel like someone, if he was really in that situation, he's making these choices that he thinks is going to protect everybody, even Vanya in a certain sense, but it's also isolating her more, thus driving her insanity, her powers, her mental health issues, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. Going back to Leonard, the boyfriend, did you get the idea that instantly he was a bad guy?
Yeah. at first I thought it's like, oh, it's because I'm bitter because I hate romance. and no, but when he first comes in and he's like clearly flirting with her, and I'm just like, just let her be a teacher, dude. You know. And again, I didn't see coming that he was like actually gonna be, you know, pulling the puppet strings, so to speak. But at first I'm just like, damn, this dude is like, all right, like he really likes his fucking violin teacher. And then as Allison starts noticing things, I'm just like, yeah, it's a little bit weird what he's doing. And then like finally when, you know, things finally come to a head at like, what is it, like the lake house or whatever, and he's just like, no, like I'm the reason why you're successful. You would be nothing without me. And I'm just like, oh, that hits home.
That's the scene where she ends up killing him, right?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
kills him in the lake house.
No, that's where they leave Allison. Allison gets left in the lake
she
house,
gets left,
and then
that's
they
right.
go back. They go back to Leonard's house.
That was a
Oh,
great
okay.
scene.
That was
When she cut her throat with the thing, I was like,
Oh.
oh my god.
Yeah,
I was like,
fuck.
they killed her. I know she wasn't one of my favorite characters, but she's one of the main characters. It's crazy. And they didn't kill her, but yeah, it was nuts.
And that happens in the first story too, is where Rumor gets her vocal cords cut, and they got to figure out what to do with her after that. Yeah, I mean, I like that. I feel like in a lot of superhero shows like that, if the dynamic was Leonard is manipulating her and Vanya finds out, they would have extended that manipulation more to him saying like, oh, you need me, and her going, oh yeah, you're right. But I like that they turned it. And where she kills him, like I think in episode 8, maybe 9, like, so there's still some time left to kind of tell.
Yeah, they don't leave it
sure.
lingering there. Like,
Right,
is this guy gonna get his comeuppance? Is he
Right.
not? And they just like, no, he is.
Yeah.
And he got it. Like he got it bad.
And like you feel totally justified in going like, yes.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
I feel like that guy was like the embodiment of like the Reddit comment section at the end. Just like, yeah, this dude needs to go.
Yeah.
So
This podcast is gonna be big on Reddit.
yeah, oh yeah.
I knew that from his opening, like
meant
his
what I
very
said.
first scene. Like I was just like, yeah, this guy's not right.
Yeah.
Like he's just something's going on. I don't know what it was. I didn't know he was going to be essentially kind of like one of the big bads, you know, to manipulate her to the point where she becomes what she becomes. But I knew he wasn't good. I was like, oh, there's something going on with him. I was like, he's just really bad. He's either a bad guy or he's just really bad at hitting on people.
Yeah.
Because this is really
Oh,
awkward.
dude, like the cringe was real.
was
I'm
super
like,
cringy.
oh man.
I was like, man, this is not
I'm
good.
like, Ellen Page, like please use your powers against this guy.
Has that guy been in anything before? Because he looks like something.
The guy in Drake and Josh, in my opinion.
I don't know what.
I don't think that's not him.
No, I know, but
But,
he looked like it. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I don't recognize him.
He looked. I've seen him in something before. He looks like something. Some.
look it up on my phone.
I got it right
Put
here,
on
and
the
that's what I
couch.
have on my phone. John Magoro.
Megoro.
Megaro.
He looks so much
John
better
Magaro.
in his headshot. Obviously, but you know.
You guys could keep it going.
So anyway, Travelino.
Don't call me.
You guys are really good at keeping
Yeah.
it going while I
Yeah,
do this.
the casual banter.
Yeah. So who? What?
Nailing it.
So which characters did you like?
So Magaro is known for his work in Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, Woody Allen's Crisis in Six Scenes, and his yeah, there's a good callback there, and his more memorable reoccurring role on Netflix, Orange is the New Black.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Okay. I didn't watch that show. So.
Wait, did he play the boyfriend?
He would not Piper's. The who's the Jersey girl? The Jersey like no, the one who's sleeping with Natasha Lyonne.
Oh, her. Okay.
Like she gets like a
The prison hubby.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she does with chlamydia. All right. This is all garbage. All this.
No, I think this is great.
No, this is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I like this kind of
You're garbage. No, you're not. I'm sorry.
Hello.
Hello.
stuff. That's a blooper reel. You garbage piece of shit.
Scott, who were your favorite characters? Who did you like?
Klaus and Five. Klaus and Five were easily my favorites out of the 7.
I've got that here too. That they were my favorites as well.
Yeah, those two and Hazel. I liked Hazel. Hazel was really cool.
Hazel's the mom?
No, Hazel's the killer. One of the killers. Hazel and Cha-Cha. The mom...
The non-Mary J. Blige person.
The mom's name.
Grace?
Grace.
Grace, that's what it was. Okay.
I like Grace, too. Like, she didn't have a huge role, but every scene that she was in, I really enjoyed her.
When Diego had to deactivate her, that was another scene where I got really emotional. I'm like, this is really well done. I like the fact that he was a little mama's boy, and that he could never get his father's approval, so he always went running to mom, and she gave it to him, and their relationship was very well done. I also liked Pogo. Pogo was great.
Yeah, why not?
Pogo was amazing.
Why wouldn't you?
But one of the cool things about the comic
Talking monkey.
that they didn't that they didn't have in the show is that chimps are just part of this world, that they're like integrated in society. And I don't know if all of them talk, but there's a scene. So in the comics, they have the scene where Five kills all the soldiers that come after him in the donut shop. And then like the police force, like the CSI team, it's all chimps. And it's like chimps in like police outfits and like with sunglasses, and they're like dusting for prints and everything.
I wonder if Gerard Way is a big fan of the Planet of the Apes, because that was one of the... What was that, 3? Planet of the Apes was... It took... Oh, no, it's 2. No, 3. It was 3. The one that took place in modern day.
So that was... 3 is when they come back in time.
Okay, 3... So it's 4 then. Yes. So in Planet of the Apes 4... apes are used in modern society, did they say that like most animals died?
Yeah, so
cats died.
Cats and dogs had a virus that killed them all, and it's kind of implied that not Caesar, but Cornelius and Zira brought it back with them from the future, and that's what killed all the dogs and the cats. And then so they said, Ricardo Montalban says his last word, man cannot be without pets. And so they then train apes to be their pets, and then become their servants and slaves.
So maybe Gerard Way was a big fan of the original Planet of the Apes. Why wouldn't you? Because they're awesome.
They are great.
Andy, your favorite characters?
My favorite characters, Vanya.
Character or characters?
Characters. Vanya, for the reasons I mentioned earlier. I loved Klaus. I thought Klaus was, initially I thought he was great comic relief, but later on, he was just such a complex character, and I really appreciate a good, dynamic, complex character. And then Five was just always fun.
Yeah. I liked Five because he's just so insane.
Yeah.
He's fucking jaded. That's why.
Well, it's not that he's jaded. It's that he was there at the end of the world with nobody except this mannequin to love, and
True.
So when he comes back, like one of my favorite scenes is when they find him in the library with a bottle of vodka, and what's the mannequin's name? Dolores. Yeah, and he's just like clutching her, and
It's pain and sorrow.
again, like another good kind of character trait is, it seems like Five is this character who wants to grow up too fast. He's telling Hargraves, he's like, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to go be on my own. I'm ready. And he's so not, when he goes out on his own and comes back, he's stuck in this body of a child, which I think is just another great thematic element with him, is that when you're a kid, you think you're ready, but you're not.
Mm-hmm. I like that even though he was... I don't find that he was insane. I find that he was very even keel, and he just had seen so much. Mm-hmm. Like when you're out on your own in the apocalypse with nothing but a mannequin, you more than likely going to go a little insane. Yeah. You're going to talk to yourself. You're going to, make up conversations with a mannequin. But when he comes back, he seems to be like a even killing machine. And it's just like, yeah, we just got to do this, okay? Like, let's just do this. This is what we have to do. And everyone's like, well, we shouldn't do this. No, we have to kill to kill this and whatever.
If we kill these 4 people, we save 7 billion.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I kill this guy if he's just a dry cleaner. Like, to kill one to save millions is, worth it in his mind, which makes 100% sense.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still dragging Dolores around with him. At the point where if Luther's gonna drop him out the window, he says, "Fuck it" for a second and like goes to save the mannequin.
Yeah.
That's his lady.
So I still think he's quite a bit insane.
Yeah. It's
isolation does that to a person.
Right.
And there's no better isolation than being the lone survivor after the apocalypse.
Right.
But for me, just again, like he's, in my opinion, like everything he did or his behavior was because he was jaded. So that's why he had no qualms about killing a few to save billions. That and just plus, can't imagine working under the management of this like time jump council thing.
That stuff was great.
Yeah.
I love that. It looked, it was retro. It was in the future, but everything looked retro. It was old school. Everyone was working on typewriters and stuff.
No, it wasn't in the future. It was back in the 50s. It was 55.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so they're basically
They went from the future to the past.
no. So they are, from the way that I understood it, they're in 1955, and they know what's going to happen. They see all these elements, whether it's in the future or the past, and they send these agents out throughout time to make sure that it happens. So what the handler said was she implied they're working for something bigger than them. And so I think whoever or whatever is bigger than them
That has to come from the future.
is either from the future or from just outside of time in some way or another. But
Okay.
Well, that's something I missed then.
Yeah,
Because I was just like, oh, they're just in this, I don't know, pocket universe or something, or they just go retro in the future and that's just how they're doing it.
no, they actually gave like an actual time date. Like they said, I feel like it was 1955.
Yeah, I might have missed that.
Yeah.
And I've watched this 3 times, so it's crazy I missed that.
Do you guys think the handler's dead?
No,
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't trust it. Yeah, she got shot in the head, but it's comics.
Allison got her throat slit,
Yeah. Right.
I was like, your throat's slit. There's a ton of blood coming out of it. You're dead.
I didn't
You died
like
now.
no, it just like messed up her vocal cords. I'm like, she would have fucking died though.
Just
like,
bled out.
yeah,
Lost
bled
so
out.
much fucking blood.
Yeah.
Now, in that scene where Vanya loses her shit and cuts Allison's vocal cords, did that feel like an earned moment to you? Where is that something do you think like Vanya would have freaked out about? Because one of the things that I always get annoyed about in a lot of TV shows is, it wasn't really Allison, right? It was Hargreaves who kind of told Allison to erase Vanya's memory.
Right.
And Vanya's there taking it out on her. Did that feel earned to you guys, or was that something that kind of bothered you, or?
I mean, to me, it did feel like a valid moment. Just again, like all these years of literally being kept out of, as I said, she's an outsider among outsiders. And the fact that Hargreaves is dead, she can't take it out on him. She can't have that cathartic moment. So Allison is the next best thing. That combined with the fact that she doesn't know the extent of her powers and how lethal she is.
Right.
So to me, it just seemed like she lost her temper and it had, almost lethal consequences. That being said, though, I did think that, the writers are just like, okay, and this is where she really loses her shit so that this moment can happen. So it was a valid point, but it did seem slightly out of character, in my opinion. Slightly.
I felt like it was on point. I thought it was an earned moment. Her whole storyline was being left out, like you said, and just it got to the boiling point where this one lifeline that she had, this guy that she has feelings for, her sister's trying to take it away. Like, oh, the one person that actually cares about you back, yeah, he's no good for you, and she's hearing that from someone that she sees who has had it all. She's fame, fortune, family, kid, everything that Vanya never had, that she never got because she was always by herself and isolated. That one person is telling her the one person that she thinks is good for her is no good for her. Yeah. So in that sense, it felt very earned to me, especially the instant regret right after it happened. It seemed so realistic. It's like I don't know, like, you ever been so drunk that someone's annoying you or whatever, or you're in a moment and someone's trying to do something, but you don't want to deal with it, so you lash out, but then you sober up for a second, and you're like, what did I just do? That's kind of what it felt like in that moment. Like, there was just so much rage and anger, and then after you unleash the Kraken on them, then you're like, wait, oh my god, I just could have ruined everything, and then, of course, there's blood everywhere, so yeah.
Right. Well,
We just learned a little bit more about Scott, you guys.
Happens a lot.
For me, that it did feel like an earned moment as well. I was bringing it up because I specifically noted it because, like I said, in a lot of times in shows they'll do something like that and it doesn't feel earned. But I think for me that harkened back to the mental health theme in it, where sometimes when you have these issues that you're dealing with, you don't always have the control, or you don't always have the ability to differentiate, like, oh, this is someone I should be angry at as opposed to someone else over here. So that worked on it. Worked for me, I should say. So we're really singing the show's praises. Did you guys have any like flaws or critiques that you had with it? Anything you didn't like?
I mean, I didn't care for the romantic subplot between Allison and Luther, but I don't know. We'll see if it like has like a payoff in the grand overall story arc. That's my only like nitpicky complaint. There wasn't anything inherently wrong with it. I'm just, like I said, it's my personal taste. I don't care for romantic subplots, but
you just want everyone to die alone and bitter.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'm really trying to think about that. I can't offhand. I can't remember anything that I really had issues with. Not knowing the source material, not reading any of the source material, so there wasn't anything really there for me to complain about. I'm not one that always needs for the original source material and the movie or whatever the adaptation is. I don't need it to be 100% accurate. As long as you do a good job at transitioning most of it into whatever the new thing is, like, I'm cool with it. Offhand, I can't really think of anything that I had that many issues with.
I think for me, I think one of the only issues is that they had to kind of tone down some of the weirder elements, things like the goddamn orchestra that I brought up, things like not having chimps integrated into society more like they did, or like with Luther's look in the comic is a little more outlandish, where he wouldn't be able to just hide the fact that he has an ape body. He's got a giant body and a tiny head, and I think they explained it that it was like a space accident, not just like a mission gone wrong or something like that.
Right. I watched this video that kind of covers the Umbrella Academy, and that is one of the things they said. And then going to Pogo, he was a regular ape that was genetically modified. Right. So by Hargreaves.
Right. So he even says that Hargreaves is the man who literally made me who I am today. So
they kind of touch on it a little.
Yeah, I mean that's what I got, that he was born a regular chimpanzee and then was modified.
And one of the other elements that I kind of missed is that so in the episode, I think it was the first episode, they flash back to their history. You see them as kids, and I think it was a bank robbery where you see them all working together. In the comic, they're fighting against a cognizant Eiffel Tower that is like trying to destroy the world and is also a rocket ship. So that's the kind of stuff that I mean, where they had to kind of tone down some of the weirder elements.
Right. We got budgets here.
Yeah, there's budgets, and I think a lot of times they supplanted that with telling more, like focusing more on relationships and characters, which I think if you're gonna have to do the trade-off, I think it's the right move to make.
Okay. So going back to your question, if I had any issues. So my initial issue was they killed the one Asian character. I was like, oh man, and all of them you killed the Asian one, huh? Like we got one and then you killed him. But they brought him back.
Right.
And so that was really cool. I was like, oh, they brought him back, so he's still in it. He's just a spirit or whatever. And that goes into Klaus's whole storyline, and like Andy said earlier, his is one of the most interesting storylines of them all. My initial thought on Klaus was, oh God, I don't know if I'm gonna like this guy. He's just he's quite a bit right away, and so initially the thought is this dude overacting. Like, is he gonna be the one guy overacting and everyone else is kind of playing middle? And then it's just who he is though, and with the wildness of the episodes, like the drug episode, you're just like, yeah, okay, like this is just kind of the world and how it is, and his story arc in itself, it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, he's that one family member that everybody has who's just extra, and we all have that. But you talked about bringing back Ben, and I think that's kind of a good place to sort of bring us to the end of the series, where they literally bring back Ben, and they literally kind of at the end of the series, or the season rather, they fuck up, they lose, they don't stop the apocalypse, and
they shoot a hole into the moon.
Yeah.
And then the moon falls apart.
And then we see all the characters, even Ben, de-aged, and they go somewhere in time. How did you guys feel about that ending, and how did you feel watching them lose, essentially? What did you think, Andy?
I liked it in a way. I didn't like that they lost, but I liked that the writers weren't shy about these people went through all these lengths and they still failed. Well, I guess we'll see if they actually try to redeem themselves in the second season, but their initial plan still failed. They found a little, I guess, like a loophole to sort of circumvent that, so they themselves survive. So I don't know. I'm holding out hope for the second season, but I appreciated that they didn't shy away from that consequence.
Right.
So
yeah, I agree. I really liked it. I liked the ending because it's such a big storyline. For them to be able to kind of end it off in, what was this, 10 episodes, 13 episodes?
Yeah.
In 10 episodes.
Which I think is the perfect number. I think the 13's a little too long for the Marvel Netflix stuff. Right.
I personally don't mind the 13. If you were trying to burn through all of them, then it is quite a bit. That's always been one of my things with that is everyone's like, well, there's just filler episodes. It's like, well, yeah, you're the asshole who decided to watch it all in a weekend. No one told you to do that. You can space these out. But I agree that I felt like this was a perfect length because I was hungover and I did watch it all in one sitting.
The Umbrella Academy. Watch it when you're hungover.
Yes, you will get it all done. But no, I really like the ending. It leaves it on a cliffhanger, and then we don't know what exactly is happening. Like you said, that they were shown to be de-aged.
Yeah, they were children.
But we don't know if that's going to stay.
Yeah.
Right.
So the de-aging part, though, I thought that was more like they were seeing themselves as the good old days.
Right.
I didn't necessarily think it was a literal de-aging,
I agree,
but also with 5 sort of. Miscalculation, that's brings up a possibility.
It's in the cards.
It's in the cards, but initially that was my first thought. they're reminiscing about when they were a team again, or before,
Yeah.
I kind of hope. My hope is that because obviously they're gonna bring back the entire cast. They're not gonna recast with these child actors. I kind of hope it's one of those things where the world perceives them as children, but that we still see the actors and they know that they're adults, and so we see these actors in these roles where everyone thinks they're kids. So that's kind of my hope. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't read the series past the first trade. Do you guys want to know how the first trade ends? Because it ends a little bit differently than the
Is there any further, like, it won't spoil anything in the future, right? It
No.
ends with the apocalypse thing.
It ends. The ending is different in the sense that they stop the apocalypse.
Okay.
So
Well, I didn't want to know that. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So in the show, there's that moment where it's Allison and she has the gun to Vanya's head. In the comics, she gets shot in the head.
Oh.
fuck.
I don't remember who it is, but she's not dead. She's brain damaged, and they have to deal with those consequences. And then the rock from the moon is coming down, and then Klaus really steps up, and it's Klaus's powers that stops the apocalypse from
Because
happening.
he has, like, telekinesis, right, in the
Right.
comic book?
Right. It's more telekinesis than the way they explain it in the show. Is that he's like conjuring the spirit, the physical manifestation of these spirits, and they showed that with Ben, which was really cool. And then there's actually a really cool moment where he communes with Hargreaves, and Hargreaves kind of takes over Klaus's body, and they're able to kind of get to Vanya for a second through that. Which that's one of those changes that I really appreciated in the show, is that they had to do this all without Hargreaves. Like there's that one scene where Klaus and Hargreaves have that conversation. You find out that Hargreaves killed himself on purpose, which I think was cool. It added a level to Hargreaves that we didn't see before. But yeah, I think I liked the ending of the show a lot better than the comic.
So I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think they're gonna touch on the other 36 children that were also born?
I don't think so.
That's what I was always. I was like, oh man, it would be cool if some of those show up. And there's so much room for play there. That's a lot of kids.
I mean, just from what I know from the series, I have done a little bit of looking into the other series. As far as I know, they don't bring them up.
Which is good, because it's like saved ammunition. Like, work this as much as you can, get as much out of this group as you can, and then if you wanted to keep going, that's when you can tap into those other.
I kind of heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard it's one of those things where Gerard Way wanted to leave it as a mystery and just leave you wondering and never knowing what those other kids were.
That's always cool. That's an always cool element. Yeah. That's something I like to bring into my own stories too. There's certain things that won't ever be covered. There's certain things that will, but it'll take a long period of time. So that's a very cool aspect. So the last thing on this, since you were the only one that actually read anything, do you feel like, would you have liked it better if you were able to go in cold not knowing anything?
Well, and that's the thing. I did kind of start cold because I had read those a couple issues before, but I kind of forgot most of it. So I saw those first. It was 4. I watched the first 4, and I was like, I have to go back and read the comic now. So I had the choice, and I chose not to.
Not to go back and read them?
No, I had the choice because, like I said, I didn't really remember what had happened.
Yeah.
So I could have gone through and finished the season cold.
Okay.
But I loved that show so much that I wanted even more. So even when it got too late for me to keep watching the series, I was like, oh, I read it 45 minutes in a 45-minute session before I went to bed.
Okay.
You know, I downloaded it on my iPad and just read it because I have Comixology. It was great. I loved it.
Cool.
So.
Right on. Did you like not knowing anything? I mean, you didn't read any of the books.
Yeah,
but-
I had absolutely zero idea of what was going to happen, other than it's like X-Men meets a series of unfortunate events, or like taps into like the emo side of things.
Like
pushing daisies.
yeah.
Someone said to me today that it's Wes Anderson's X-Men.
Yeah, I can see that. But no, like I loved just going in like completely cold, just because everything else just was like mind blowing. Like, what? There's a whole freaking agency in the 50s, and what? Like, Leonard was a shitty person the whole time. Well, that I saw coming, but
Right.
that was my Spidey sense.
That's like us with trailers. So for the audience, me and Travis usually like to watch the introductory trailer, the teaser trailer, and then after that it's cold turkey straight into the movie. We don't watch anything else.
I might stop watching trailers altogether because I'm not even watching the Far From Home trailer, the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, because the way that I look at it, a trailer's job is to get you interested in a movie.
Yeah.
I'm already interested in Spider-Man. I'm already interested in Avengers Endgame.
Right.
So you don't have to sell me. You don't have to show me more. Like,
Right.
I just want to wait for the product, and I want to experience the whole product as is.
And that's how I felt about Umbrella Academy. Like, I was happy that I didn't know anything prior to watching. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, this is completely cold. I didn't know anything about the characters. Like, if I read the book, then I would know Vanya does have powers. I assume she did have powers. It just, you can't be one of those kids and not have powers.
Right.
You know, it just seems weird. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that part.
Is there anything that you guys particularly want to see in season 2? Any expectations?
I have zero expectations. Like, I'm just like, that was an awesome cliffhanger. Like, let's see what you guys got. Because I'm not, and I still won't read anything. I'm going to let the second season come, and then after that, maybe I'll think about reading. Because from what I know, there's 3 6-issue storylines.
Yes, and I think the third one is still ongoing.
Oh, is that right?
I think they're only on issue 4 or 5. So,
Awesome.
anything you want to see in season 2?
I mean, I just kind of want to see where they take it. The only thing I'm mildly, blah, blah, blah. I'm mildly, yeah.
Rewind.
Rewind. The only thing.
You were meowing.
Meow. You're ruining my moment. The only thing I'm mildly.
Here's the rails. Here's us. We're off the rails.
Yeah, thank you.
Who's getting real?
Okay. I'm with Scott. I'm just. Maybe the other 36 kids will come up. I'd be curious to see if they even like question it, because so far like no one's questioned it. But that's the only like thing I'd be moderately curious about. But everything else, I just want to just see what they do.
Yeah.
I think I don't necessarily need to see the other kids, but I want to see if there's a link between Hargraves being an alien, which kind of came out of nowhere, but is in the book.
I did not know that.
That he was an alien?
Yeah.
That's what the whole start of the last episode was. You see him on his home planet talking
What?
to. Yeah, he's on his home planet and he's talking to his wife, and she's the one who has the violin. She's like, "Take this and go." And the rocket.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Sorry.
Dicks. The rocket ships are launching off.
Dicks?
What are these
Giant dicks.
that are like, what are those? Like, I don't understand. What kind of animal is this?
They're real curved and long.
Right.
You know?
It's like elephant trunk.
So the rocket ships are launching off, and
Yeah.
then he comes to Earth, and then I just want to see if there's some kind of connection between Hargreaves being, his alien origin, and whether or not that relates to the 43 births.
Okay.
So
Yeah, sorry about that. I had a little brain fart and many whiskeys and cokes.
Tomorrow he'll be rewatching the Umbrella Academy on the couch.
Fourth time.
Maybe I'll get all of this. Jeez Louise.
all right, well those were our thoughts on the Umbrella Academy. Hope you guys like it too. If you like our video, please hit subscribe, leave a comment.
Like this video, send it to your friends, tell them, hey, a bunch of weird people are talking movies
And we are actually a art studio. We are an art studio located here in San Diego. Please visit our website, accidentalaliens.com. You can find our books there. The Second Shift, that is my own book. It is about minimum wage superheroes. Travis does Unstoppable Cherub, which is go ahead and lift that bad boy up. It is a superhero with a limb difference, just like Travis's. And then Andy, she is featured in all 3 of the Accidental Alien anthologies, doing Fed Up.
Live from the Apocalypse, and my next one's Serena Cliffs.
And that Kickstarter is running right now until April 1st. So go on to Kickstarter.com and search Accidental Aliens, or we will have a link below in the descriptions. So click that link, back our project, pick up our book, and hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you for the next one.
Bye.
Bye.